Hey, what's up guys, it's Galaxy Tech Dark Lord here. You can see that this deck is devoted to Infernities, and I've been just testing them out bit by bit, seeing if I can make them work again without Infernity Barrier. Of course that is at 1, so there is 1 in here, and yes, they can, basically. It's a fundamental card in the fact that it kind of guarantees safety among executing the combos, which is what a lot of combo-based decks kind of fail on, which, you know, and I can't understand why Konami actually went to the trouble of limiting Barrier when Infernity aren't even tier 1. So, yeah. I'm just going to get right into it. So, of course, we run 3 copies of Infernity Archfiend because it is your searcher for every Infernity card, and it's an 1800 beta, and it's just the best Infernity there is, basically, in terms of main deck monsters. And then the other obvious one is 3 copies of Infernity Necromancer, because it is your reborn for all Infernities that aren't Necromancer. So, you know, and it's got a nice beefy 2000 defense, which is really great, and it's level 3, so you can go into Levier with it if you get the chance to have 3 out, or one of the level 3 fusions that we play. I should point out also this deck is not entirely devoted to XEs. I affectionately name it Black and White because it runs a bit of synchros as well, because I like synchros in this deck. So we then run 1 copy of Infernity Avenger because it enables enables us that little synchro capability. It is a great tuner, and also it is a stall when it just stalls your opponent, because you can use it when you have no cards in your hand and your monster's destroyed. It just comes back and it becomes the level of the destroyed monster, so that's a very good card. And then 1 copy of Infernity Mirage because it is a secondary launcher in effect, and you know you can target it with Infernity. You can use it as fuel for Infernity Break. It's a good card, and it's searchable, you know, and you can use it with Stygian Street Patrol. You know, it's just a good target. And then copy of Archfiend Heiress because that is it just allows some Archfiend cards to be quite searchable. So it searches the Searcher, which is Archfiend, and it also searches Archfiend Palabyrinth and Archfiend's Roar, which we also run in this deck. So then the more generic stuff, Armageddon Knight and Dark Grepher, I don't need to explain why. These are kind of like key pieces in every Infernity deck, Synchro or XCs. And then 2 copies of Stygian Street Patrol because, you know, some people run 3. I find 3 is a bit too cloggy. Some people run 1, and I've just found that 1 is not enough, and it really is not in a subsequent amount. So that concludes the monsters. There's still 13 monsters in this deck, so there's still that consistency of you'll get what you want. Then for the spells, obviously we have Infernity Launcher because it is just the most broken card in the deck, I think, to be honest. I can see why that was limited the moment it came out, but you know. So then, and we also run Archfiend Palabyrinth because it just gives all your Infernities an extra boost of 500 attack, which, you know, that will put your Infernity Archfiends up to 2300, which is higher than a lot of things, and you know, it'll put Stygian up as well. It's mainly, and also it has a good effect. You know, if you've used a Necromancer and you don't need it on the field, and you have an Archfiend, Infernity Archfiend on the field, you can just use this to banish the Necromancer and special summon another Archfiend, which if you have no cards in your hand, will trigger its effect. So that's also very good as well. Then 1 copy of Foolish Burial because, you know, you need stuff. You need stuff in the graveyard. It's there for that reason. Reinforcement, the army, is in here because this allows you to search out either Dark Grepher or Armageddon Knight if you really need it. So those are always good. Then for the 2 of cards now, we have 2 copies of Instant Fusion. Although this is a Synchro deck as well as an XE's deck, Instant Fusion is just more useful because it just it doesn't cost your battle phase. You can get a fusion monster out. You can either Synchro or XE's with it, so you know that's always quite good as well. And then we have 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, because it's just one of those deck thinning cards. It'll thin your deck and give your opponent 1,000 life points, but this being a control deck, it doesn't really matter if you don't take them out first turn, because you own the field by the end of a combo. So that's always good. And then 3 copies of MST, because it's MST and we don't like back row used against us. So that is it for the spells. And finally for the main deck, at least, the traps, we have 1 copy of Infernity Barrier. It was hit by the ban list, and I'm still pondering why. There's a lot of hate against Infernities because of this card. It's, it's no different from Heretic Seal of Reflection or any other card. It just negates everything, besides summons. But it has 3 conditions of activation, so if we look here, activate only when your opponent activates a spell card, trap card, or effect monster's effect. If you control a face-up attack position Infernity monster. So that is 3 conditions of activation. So I'm really not sure why it was actually hit. Especially seeming as this deck is not even tier 1. Anyway, my rant over. 3 copies of Infernity Break, because it is just an amazingly good card to play. And it doesn't have to be an Infernity monster, it can be any Infernity card, it can be a break that you've used earlier, your barrier if you really want to, your launcher, or actually, what I prefer more is Infernity, God, I forgot the name, Mirage. Infernity Mirage, because that card cannot be special summoned from the graveyard and is useless beyond it. So, yeah. And then Archfiend's Roar, because you're running Infernity Archfiend, and it counts as an Archfiend, obviously, so that's a good card. It's your Reborn trap card. It only costs 500 life points. And 2 copies of Dimensional Prison, because I still have that Dracosac, Battling Boxer, Lead Yoke hate, because I just hate those cards used against me, and for that reason I've got these. And then 2 copies of Mirror Force, because it's Mirror Force and it's awesome, and 2 copies of Fiendish Chain, because you can use this is your effect veiler, basically. Don't need to say much more about that. It's Fiendish Chain. It stops attacks, stops effects. Then we have 2 copies of Trapstun, because it's Trapstun. And then 1 Transmigration Prophecy. No idea how you actually say it. Transmigration or Transmigration. This is just for recycling your Infernity Barrier and Infernity Launcher, because those are the most vital cards in the deck, really. And because they're only at 1, I just thought it would be a good card. This would be a good card to play. And so far in all the tests that I've been running, it has not failed me on that front. And then finally, Solemn Warning, just because it is a great card to play. It just negates all those summons. So yeah, that is it for the traps. You may be wondering why I'm not running Dark Bribe or 7 Tools of the Bandit in exchange for the 2 barriers that have been hit out of this deck. I don't actually like running those cards because 7 Tools cost life points, and Dark Bribe just gives your opponent an extra card that you may regret giving them. So yeah, and the other option was Dark Illusion, but if they're not searchable cards, so I don't bother playing those. The whole idea of Infernity Barrier in this deck was the fact that it was a very searchable card. Right, for the extra deck, the final part of the deck, because I'm not running a side deck, I'll explain why later. Obviously the 2 copies of Lavalval Chain, because it is Lavalval Chain and it is a vital component of the deck as well. It just gets all the cards where you need them to be. In this case, mainly they're going to be in the graveyard, because I'm not running Monster Gate in this deck anymore. And 2 copies of Diamond Dire Wolf, because this just clears your field if you've got a useless Lavalval Chain on the field. So, and also you can use it on your opponent, really, to be honest. You can get rid of Diamond Dire Wolf and one of your opponent's cards. so that's always good. Levier, because we run a level 3 fusion in this deck. We've got Infernity Necromancers. You might have banished something with Infernity Break, so it would always be good to use this to get it back. Could even be an Archfiend that you can use to set off its effect. Then, lastly, for the XEs, I've got a Digusto Emerald just because it recycles your monsters if you want to recycle them. You could cut this out for any other XEs monster because it's not so vital in this deck, because I don't know how, but Infernity Barrier being hit to 1 has just changed the deck, I think. So yeah, and then for the synchro bits, obviously God of Infernities here. 3 copies of Void Ogre Dragon, because it is, if you take into consideration that it is a 3000 attack point beta, and it also has a nice beefy 3000 defense, and that it during either player's turn it can negate the activation of a spell or trap card that your opponent has, and while you have no cards in your hand. So really taking that into consideration, if you have 3 of those on your field, that's 3 times per turn during either player's turn. And so, that being said, it is basically just Infernity Barrier as a synchro with attack points. So that is a great card to play, and I love playing this card because of that. Then 1 Infernity Doom Dragon, because this is a more barrier compatible card, because Void Ogre Dragon, in all its glory, is not actually an Infernity monster. It is, in the manga, it was actually related to Infernities in being a dual dragon, but you don't want to hear that. Infernity Doom Dragon also has a great destruction effect, so that's always great. And then copy of Stardust Dragon, because it's Stardust Dragon. I love running Stardust Dragon because it's just great at negating stuff. Then copy of Mistworm, because it's just that bounce card. You can make it in this deck, 2 Archfiends and an Avenger, and then you can just bounce up to 3 cards, so that's always good. And then finally, 1 copy of Flame Ghost, because it's level 3 and it's summonable via instant fusion, and Camion Wizard, because I don't have Dark Fire Dragon, but it's still a great card to play because it is level 4, and that's what matters. So that is the deck in a nutshell, basically. There is no side deck because I don't know if you guys are subscribed to Alynthia Yo, you'll see that he submitted a video that was called "Why Playing Yu-Gi-Oh in Europe Sucks," and basically from that I've realised that actually he's right, because the amount of different cards that people here in the UK side in or just play in comparison to in the USA, and because even though the Infernity are going to be my main deck again when I've went at the next locals I go, I have yet to build a side deck because I have actually yet to see what other people are playing in the current format. So anyway, that is the deck in a nutshell. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. Peace out.